Welcome to Kyle and Nick on Film. Today we're talking about a film that's coming out here in a little bit. One that we got to see at a press screening a little bit earlier on. The second adaptation of the Taichi Yamada novel Strangers.
Fascinating. It's a second, yeah.
Yeah, we'll get into the first one because that's got an interesting story to it as well. Okay. We're going to be talking about All of Us Strangers today, a new film that's getting pretty high praise and looking at potentially an Oscar run, directed by Andrew Heggs. So. Take a moment, join us strangers at the table.
Let's become friends.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. I'm one of your hosts, Kyle Goethe from GoatFilmReviews.com.
Hey, I'm Nick from the St. Paul Filmcast. Thanks for finding us. Thanks for watching. And for our loyal fans, thank you for continuing to support the show. Hey, to our new subscribers and people who have just recently found us, thank you. We noticed. Thank you for seeing us, and keep telling your friends about the show. Hit the like and subscribe button. Add a comment to help expand the show. It's a little thing you can do to help us out a great deal. Both Kyle and I are members of the Minnesota Film Critics Alliance. Check out that webpage for critics reviews as well as ours. And of course, heck yeah, we have a Patreon. Check that out for some great deals and some great content and an opportunity to pick a movie we can review in a future episode. Of course, a shout out to you. All right, so today we're talking about a relatively new movie for us. Brand spanking new.
Yeah. So Adam's a struggling screenwriter living a lonely existence in a nearly empty apartment complex. Yep. When he meets and starts up a romance with neighbor Harry, he also finds that his parents still reside in his childhood home, looking exactly as they did 30 years ago, the day they died.
So this is based on a book called Strangers by
Taichi Yamada,
yes.
Who's a writer I've heard of, but I've never read any of his work before. The first adaptation of the film, the novel came out in 1987 and was first adapted into a 1988 film, the Discarnates. I'm saying it right. The Discarnates.
Okay.
That was actually made by noted filmmaker Nobuhiko Obayashi, who I've seen a couple of his films before, and I'm very curious about how he would have adapted this work because he's most well known for the film Hausu from the late 70s, which was a bonkers haunted house movie that included a piano that ate teenage girls and a weird sentient cat.
Well, we're going to stop tape now. What's that? Right.
So the Hausu is a film we'll be talking about sooner rather than later, and probably the Discarnates as well, because that very much interests me.
Okay, so it starts some rising people that we've seen a lot of movies previously, but their cred is getting... Their stock is really rising, and that is Scott and Mescal.
Yeah, so Andrew Scott, of course, I think he was on the show Fleabag, which is a show I never got around to watching, but now I kind of want to go back to it.
He was Moriarty on Sherlock.
Yeah, he was Moriarty. Appeared in 1917, as well as the James Bond film Spectre. Yep. So he's got, as far as film work goes, he's in a lot of movies, but he's rarely been the leading man before. So It's nice to see this kind of escalation. As far as Paul Mescal goes, we covered the film that he was in
he's the
After
dad.
Sun at the beginning of this year.
Yeah.
And The Lost Daughter last year.
Right, he was the younger person that got wooed by Coleman.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so he's done a couple of those films right there. He was recently in the film Foe, which I have an early review up on GoatFilmReviews.com. Check out my review on Foe. Yeah, he's one of the three people in Foe.
I'm going to have to watch it just because he's in it.
Yeah, he's a very exciting talent right now. And actually, we covered Napoleon on a previous episode, and he will be actually appearing with Ridley Scott's Gladiator 2. He's playing the son of Commodus.
Right. There's a lot of good people already signed for Gladiator 2. Okay, so we have Andrew Scott, we have Paul Mescal, but we also have some veterans playing Andrew's parents.
It's crazy to think of Jamie Bell as a veteran, but yeah, you're right, he is. I mean, he's been doing things since, what was it? Was it Billy Elliot?
Yeah, I know.
Way back in the day.
He's a veteran, right?
Yeah. So Jamie Bell, of course, did films like Rocket Man. He did the 2005 King Kong film. Appears here as the dad, rocking a sweet mustache. And then we also have Claire Foy, who kind of rose to prominence on The Crown.
Yes, exactly.
Before playing Lisbeth Salander in one of the girl who kicked the hornet's nest, I believe it was called. We previously talked about her film Women Talking last year. Was one of my favorite movies of the year. So she's been definitely a rising star. Kind of super rocketing her way to some good work here.
Right, all four of them kind of have been picking the right material for them and making right choices for the films that are good for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think, even in the case of like Foe, which is a movie I wasn't gaga for, Mescal was great in it. It's like they're kind of like they are rising stars because they stand out in everything that they're in.
Sure.
They're always standouts. And so I think even Jamie Bell, who's a person that does not have a ton of star power to his name,
No.
but everything he's in, he stands out. Even when he's playing a rock
Ears
monster.
are kind of stand out too. His ears a little bit because that's the thing. I was like, yeah, that's it. Jamie Bell, the ears, right? Yeah, right. All right, and then let's get down to the director because we've seen previous work of his before.
Actually, this is the first time I've seen an Andrew Hegg film. I've
What
never
the-
seen one before.
Okay,
he had done 45 years,
Yes.
which was kind of I think probably
Yes,
one of the
I've
bigger
seen-
films that he'd done.
Yeah.
And the film Weekend that came out a few years ago. and
I've
I
never
think-
seen Weekend yet.
I think he had to have worked on the HBO series Looking because he directed the Looking television film that followed the end of that series, which was definitely like a central figure television series for the gay community. So I think you can kind of see what he's kind of added and changed to Yamada's novel. I just am looking to the novel itself, and he is kind of imprinting a lot of himself
I see.
on this film. The childhood home where his parents lived, I believe, was actually his childhood home.
Oh, really?
So he's kind of
What?
really throwing a lot of himself into this film, and you can see it. It's a very personal movie throughout that.
Very personal, right?
Yeah.
And very intimate. Right, and so just want to grind out a couple more credits and crew before we get to our review.
Yeah. I wanted to talk about the cinematography from Jamie Ramsey, who is not a name that I would have known popping out at me.
No.
But one of the great works that he did last year that I absolutely adored was Living, which was the essentially the additional adaptation of
Oh, the Bill
Ikiru.
Nighy?
Yeah.
The Bill Nighy one.
Yes, so he
Oh,
shot
yeah, I love the look
Living,
of that.
which was a great looking
Yeah.
movie. Actually, what's funny enough is that the music was also done by Emily Levonaise Farouk, who did the music for Living, as well as a really cool horror film from a couple years back, Censor, about a MPAA censor from like the 80s who gets involved in some horror shenanigans. So a lot of people kind of carried over from that kind of style of the world.
Right, and it's interesting that kind of like this, a lot of films that we cited already have this haunting thing to them.
Yeah.
And we'll
Yeah.
get to that.
I also want to mention Jonathan Alberts, who did the editing for the film, because one of the things that we'll talk about in our reviews is my thoughts on the incredibly intricate kind of choices in editing that were made here, and how they match another film that I really loved from the COVID-19 pandemic called Uncle Frank, which was at one point my favorite movie of 2020.
What the hell is that?
That was an Amazon original film directed by Wes Ball, or not Wes Ball, Alan Ball from 6 Feet Under. Went completely under the radar.
No
and I
kidding.
was praising it for the entire year. But another really well edited film that just absolutely flew by. So
Oh, that's too bad. That's the hurts when a lot of good films just fly by and get under the radar.
that's
A lot
the
of
biggest problem with streaming as it is right now, of course, because
Yeah.
that's a film that disappeared. And so if you have a chance, once you finish seeing All of Us Strangers, go on to Amazon Prime. I believe it's a Prime original. And check out Uncle Frank.
All right. So, do we have everybody covered?
Pretty much everybody. I mean, we'll talk about production design as we get into the film as well.
Sure.
And kind of our thoughts on it, because I do want to mention before we get to our official review of the film,
Sure.
Andrew Haigh went into this film seeing the book as a ghost story, which is kind of what it is. It is a fantasy in a lot of ways.
It is
a
very
ghost
much
story.
so, right.
Whatever you choose to glean from it or take from it. But he also said he kind of shied away from some of the ghost story elements of the novel and tried to go for something more psychological, more metaphysical. And so I want to make sure that when we get to our review of the film that we can really dissect those choices and see if they actually work, because very interesting choices made throughout the film.
I would say that right. And there's going to be different variations of opinions, definitely for this movie.
Yeah.
All right. So, perfect time to talk about our review of All of Us Strangers. Right at the bat, I would just say it's a very sublime, haunting, stunning, visually stunning movie.
I don't think I realized the film had its hooks in me until the end. I was interested.
It's almost like
the entire
Hellraiser
time.
hooks. It takes a time, and then
Yeah.
it gets you at the end, right?
But I hit a moment like probably about maybe 60% of the way through where I realized how engrossed I was in the story and how absolutely destroyed I felt even at that stage in the film.
Yeah.
Just deep diving into this character's psyche, and you can feel the personal relationship that's going on between Andrew Haigh and the film, between him and the audience, between him and his own past. Incredibly deep and moving story.
Yeah, All of the Strangers is a relevant title to it because it's kind of portraying, asking the questions of, are you even familiar with your own surroundings? Are you familiar being a stranger in your own body, with your own parents, with your own family, with your relationships with people? And it's played out wonderfully, this concept of, I just don't feel familiar with anybody, including myself.
Yeah.
And it's hard to wreck a movie that's very melancholy. I wouldn't say it's a sadness film, but it has a very deep core to it that investigates personalities and personal. It's a very personal film.
Yeah, my wife was asking me the other day if I could help her find some uplifting films. So when I was on the way home from this screening, I called her and I said, "I'm really glad you didn't come with me because I don't think this was the right movie for you right now."
No.
But that being said, I want to just point out, I absolutely loved this movie. And the thing about it that shocks the hell out of me is that this movie is made up of about 90% things that we've seen before. There's a lot of things that you would consider cliche, a lot of things that you would consider
Right.
tropes.
That's right.
And
yeah.
yet, none of that bothered me because there was a certain level of confidence coming from its director, and again, probably because of the personal attachment to the film.
Yeah.
That I was absolutely taken in with. When twists and turns happened, they weren't even really twists and turns, and yet I was enthralled the entire time.
Right.
And I didn't realize I was tearing until the credits started airing, and I like wiped myself away. I was like, "They can't see me like this."
The cutting and editing choices very jump into this very feverish, dreamy-like quality to it, where even the protagonist, Andrew, I don't know if he knows where exactly his point is. That's very coming like a. I don't want to set like a David Lynch movie or anything like that. But just his psyche is uncomfortably, just doesn't know his mind, his surroundings, and familiar. He is constantly sleeping, and you're constantly waking up from sleeping. So Andrew is, for the director, is kind of looking for ways of, is this point of realities, what is reality, what is dreaming, is it real, does it just because you touch and smell it, does that make it real?
Yeah. Do our conversations with the dead mean anything? You know, and are they really there to hear us? Are they really there to take part? And I like that the film doesn't shy away. I was constantly expecting the film to kind of get into Adam's psyche as a character and divulge into this, like, well, obviously my parents are here because I'm imagining this and that. Like, I like the film that it actually, like, it does steer into the ghost story, which surprised me when I had read his idea that he wanted to go metaphysical, psychological with the film, because he also, in my mind, doesn't stray away from the ghosts. The ghosts are very much part of the story. The parents
They're
living
not
in the house are
scary.
there.
They're not scary, but they're also not a tool that's going to be beneficial for you. They even talk about it. His parents are like, this is temporary.
Yep.
So they're not scary, they're not frightened, they're not to spook you, but also they're not here to cheer you up.
Yeah.
And they're talking about this is not forever. You know?
Yeah.
And that's another thing of everything is so temporary in this movie.
And even us as viewers, we don't know when it's going to end, because even Adam seems to suspect at one point that he's on the day, but he's not yet.
The character
and so
actor,
he's
yeah.
he's kind of looking for where he is within his own lifetime narrative. And there's options that Andrew Haigh as a director has in the film where he could get gratuitous, he could get violent, he could get graphic. And I like specifically that scene at the diner. There could be the opportunity to go horror with it. And there are some horrific elements just in how the film is laid out, but he doesn't. You know, there's that moment where, you know, the mother says she can't see him anymore. And it's like,
yeah,
that was really affecting for me, because I was like, oh, don't do what I think you're going to do. And no, Haigh steered away from that. And it's like he almost knew what his audience needed to feel in the specific moments. He had such a masterful direction.
Right. It's not just camera pulling away and then the horror comes off camera. He keeps the camera still and we fill in the blanks ourselves. When you film movies like this where it's haunting and sublime, gives you opportunities to film other landscapes. And your mind fills it like a simple camera out the window and you see the city out there.
Yeah.
But you see so many people are out there. Why do I feel so alone? That concept. It's kind of like not so much isolate. They never even say the word isolate. But I think that's the word that they're trying to investigate.
Yeah. And I think a lot of that comes through with Andrew Scott's performance in the lead role. And I'm telling you right now, I'm going to be pissed when he does not get a Best Actor nomination for this film. I'm going to be absolutely pissed, because I don't think he's going to get one.
There's always one nomination that gets missed, and it hurts.
Because the subtlety in what he's doing is so good. You know, when you see him talking to Harry, he's a different person than when he's by himself, and he's a very different person than when he's with his parents. Specifically in that scene where he gets into bed because he had a nightmare.
Right, yes.
He regresses.
As an adult.
He regresses and becomes that 12-year-old kid again. And it's so crazy how character shift happens.
And he fills in the blanks of
talking.
Yeah, and then he fills in the blanks of, well, if we were still alive, what we would have done.
Yep.
If you were still a kid.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't think very many people were going to watch because he has this writer's jacket.
Yeah.
This writer's jacket, but
Is that with that like sweater?
that sweater,
button up?
right? But
dude?
after like 30 minutes in the movie, it's Harry who wears it, not
I
Andrew.
didn't even notice that.
And it's
Oh.
and it was a kind of a play. And then Andrew's clothing starts getting darker and bluish and very leathery, where all of a sudden it transverses to Harry. Everybody is played almost like anybody could be a ghost in this movie.
Yeah.
Even the protagonist could have been a ghost talking to other ghosts. And it's an investigation. Maybe he's dead too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or something else. There's this translucent plane that they're on. I love the entire investigation. Your mind fills in all the blanks without seeing very much.
Yeah, there were several times throughout the beginning of the film, and I don't mean this as a denigration, but because I have heard such amazing things from people about this movie all year, because it premiered, I think, at TIFF. So
Yeah.
it's been floating for the year, and every person who sees it says like these amazing things about it, but then they don't feel like they can talk about it yet, 'cause it wasn't out yet, and the film comes out in a couple days, so I feel like we can. When I watched it, I was thinking, I don't know what you guys saw yet in the first couple scenes, especially as writers
Yeah, it takes
and movie people, the first shot being him sitting at his computer, unable to write, closes it and watches TV.
Yeah.
Again, cliche, trope.
Exactly.
And so I was like, where are you guys going with this? And within about 20 minutes, the movie started to pull me in, and I didn't realize it.
Right. And I love when we talk about it, especially in film class, that time is in an irrelevant measurement in movies. Of course, the bomb's going off in 1 hour. You have to talk about that.
Yeah.
But here, time is such an elastic thing that it's not even talked about. He sits on the couch and all of a sudden it's nighttime.
Yeah.
What the heck? Or he goes to his parents' house at night with Harry there. And then you see that there's definitely a separation.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like this linear time is nothing to this.
Yeah.
Right.
And part of that, I really feel like the film's filmic language is so strong, because I am one of those people, if you don't give me a good film language, and if you don't establish your world, I'm going to start asking questions, and I'm going to start requesting explanation.
Yeah.
And never once during this film did I say, I need you to stop the movie and tell me, like, what the rules are. Because it's established so well early on in the film.
Yeah.
And as we peel back layers, we find that we're learning things about what Adam is doing as a character and what kind of his situation is that aid us without us even needing to ask the questions. Because that's the problem in most of these films, is when you set up a filmic language and you can't execute it right, we start to pick plot holes. We try to find where those tears are in reality. We never once had that. At least I didn't in this film.
The one thing I think I got away from it, and I don't know if anybody else, but I think the lead character, Andrew, is stagnant. He's not writing very much.
Mm-hmm.
He's not going anywhere. He's not moving forward. He's looking backwards, but he's not in the present. And I think that's what he's trying to establish. He's not going forward. Obviously, a relationship with Harry would be something forward, but it's not advancing him. He talks about, I haven't done anything yet in my life to be proud of.
Yeah.
We're already proud of you. So I think the film is talking about stagnation. You have to establish who you are. And I don't think Harry has established who he are, even as a writer.
Well, and that's important, because we do see him writing in one scene in particular, and it's the scene where he is at home writing, and he is with Harry on the couch, and Harry's reading Walden by Henry David Thoreau.
Yeah, that's a good.
I got caught by the Walden. I had to see it.
Yeah.
But we do see him move. That's when he's moving forward. We see him move forward in the film, and then we see him also unable to keep going without checking in the back again.
Yes,
And I think
that's perfect.
part of it is he's asking a lot of the questions that I feel like a lot of us would ask of ourselves in the situation. The people that we have lost, we do want to know what they would think about our lives now. There's that scene with him and his mother where his father isn't at home when he goes to visit his mother, and he's discussing his sexuality and what he's learned.
And it's perfectly played.
It's exactly. Claire Foy played that scene perfectly, because again, you could go with the standard, like, I hate you for who you are.
Yeah,
you could go for the standard, I love you immediately, unconditionally, but she's torn and confused.
She plays it both.
Yeah.
Wonderfully.
Yeah, and it doesn't make us not like her character. Because she's in this flux of she didn't know, she had no idea, and she's working her way through the decisions.
I don't hate any of these characters, and all of them have deep flaws that
Yeah.
need to have be mended, and they're not going to.
Yeah, to have 4 people in a movie, like really just 4 people in a
Right.
movie, and to not hate any of them, and to
Yeah.
wish you could spend time at a dinner with one of them for even 10 more minutes. And I don't
Yeah.
know these people, but I want to spend time with them.
The one thing that hurt the most was the father said, "Well, if you were gay in my school, I definitely would have bullied you."
But it's real.
Yeah.
And it could have been done cheap.
And it does. And it's a fly-by statement, but that floats in the air and it hurts.
Yep. And I think that's the reason why we kind of are comfortable with a lot of the things that are happening being things that we've kind of seen before. I do think comes a lot of it down to chemistry. I mean, I'll tell you right now, Andrew Scott and Paul Mescal had some hot energy. Like their chemistry in the film was absolutely incredible. I believe from moment one that there was something cooking. And then to have Adam go visit his parents, and it's like nothing's changed. You believe it so wholeheartedly because of the chemistry.
No, their intimate scenes almost seem, and it's slowed down almost like it's a picture.
Yep.
Even their times of their quietness, but even when they're engaging in their making out, it's almost like it's a picture still frame photography.
Yep.
And I think it's trying to the director say, we try to hold on to these moments, and you're not being able to. I have a lot of questions about the ending. It's very fascinating. It's almost very much like
The ending is perhaps the most
Yeah.
original part of the plotting of the film.
yeah,
But
but
and how it is
goes
executed.
somewhere I never thought it would go.
Oh, absolutely not.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's what I mean is when the film hits all these beats that we've seen before and yet still feels
New.
so fresh and
Yeah.
new and original.
Yeah.
And I'm just in shock. The more I've thought about the film since yesterday, the more I have loved it.
I would say right now it's going to be in my. I haven't seen a lot of movies, so it's going to be in my top 15. It's going to be very, and I don't know where I'm going to shuffle around, but it's going to stay in there.
Yeah, I'm comfortably placing it in my top 10 for now, and I've got about 3 or 4 that I'm really excited for
Yeah.
the end of the year. So I don't think it's going to flat out fall. It would take, honestly, if this movie ends up out of my top 10 of the year,
I'd be
count it
surprised,
as
yeah.
a great damn year because
It's a good movie, right?
Yeah.
What do you think, strangers?
Yeah, let us know your thoughts on the film as before. This episode's coming out right before the film premieres. So when you get a chance to see it, come on back. Let us know your thoughts. Share some stories with us.
It's a
We'd
hard
love
thing to
have with you.
digest, man.
Yeah, it's one of those rare movies that even I would say, like, it's not a movie I'll go back to a lot, but I look forward to going back to
I would
it
say
when
it's
I do.
very similar to like Manchester by the Sea. Which
Yeah.
is a fantastic film. Do you want to go back and visit it?
Give me a week.
Right, yeah,
This
yeah.
isn't one that I'm going to go out and run out to the theater and see again tomorrow, but
Yeah.
I will be actively excited when I see it hit streaming or hit home video so I can go get it again. Okay?
Wonderful.
Yeah, let us know your thoughts on the film down below. And we're getting to the end of the year right now, so let's start seeing your top 10 favorite films of the year. Or even if you haven't seen 10, the ones you liked from this
Really?
year.
Yeah.
Let us know down
Yeah.
below in the comments section. And maybe we'll pick a few as January rolls around and kind of look back at the films we'd missed from last year. So thank you guys for joining us
Thank
so
you.
very much. You can check out, I've got a review that's going to be posted on goatfilmreviews.com
Okay.
in a couple of days where I'm going to dive into some things about the film and my personal connection to it. And you can check out all the other 1,000 of reviews that are sitting over there as well.
Yeah. And you can check out my show, the St. Paul Filmcast, anywhere you find podcasts.
All right. Well, hopefully we aren't strangers anymore.